Adapted from archaic translation by Robert Chalmers. Jataka number 97. Nāmasiddhi-Jātaka. Seeing quick dead. This story was told by the master while at Kūṭavāṇija monastery, about a brother who thought luck went by names. For we hear that a young man of good family, named Lo, had given his heart to the faith, and joined the brotherhood. And the brethren used to call to him, "Here, brother Lo. And stay, brother Lo," till he resolved that, as Lo gave the idea of incarnate wickedness and ill luck, he would change his name to one of better meaning. Accordingly he asked his teachers and instructors to give him a new name. But they said that a name only served to denote, and did not imply qualities. And they asked him to be contented with the name he had. Time after time he renewed his request, till the whole brotherhood knew what importance he attached to a mere name. And as they sat discussing the matter in the hall of truth, the master entered and asked what it was they were speaking about. Being told, he said, "This is not the first time this brother has believed luck went by names." He was equally dissatisfied with the name he had in a former age. So saying, he told this story of the past. Once upon a time the Bodhisattva was a teacher of worldwide fame at Taxila, and 500 young Brahmins learnt the Vedas from his lips. One of these young men was named Lo. And from continually hearing his fellows say, "Go, Lo, and come, Lo," he longed to get rid of his name and to take one that had a less ill-omened ring about it. So he went to his master and asked that a new name of a respectable character might be given him. Said his master, "Go, my son, and travel through the land till you have found a name you fancy. Then come back and I will change your name for you." The young man did as he was asked, and taking provisions for the journey wandered from village to village till he came to a certain town. Here a man named Quick had died, and the young Brahmin, seeing him carried to the cemetery, asked what his name was. "Quick," was the reply. "What, can Quick be dead?" "Yes, Quick is dead. Both quick and dead die just the same. A name only serves as a sign who's who. You seem a fool." Hearing this he went on into the city, feeling neither satisfied nor dissatisfied with his own name. Now a slave girl had been thrown down at the door of a house, while her master and mistress beat her with rope ends because she had not brought home her wages. And the girl's name was Rich. Seeing the girl being beaten, as he walked along the street, he asked the reason, and was told in reply that it was because she had no wages to show. "And what is the girl's name?" "Rich," said they. "And cannot rich make good a paltry day's pay? Be she called rich or poor, the money's not coming any more. A name only serves as a sign who's who. You seem a fool." More reconciled to his own name, the young Brahmin left the city and on the road found a man who had lost his way. Having learnt that he had lost his way, the young man asked what his name was. "Guide," was the reply. "And has Guide lost his way?" "Guide or misguide, you can lose your way just the same. A name only serves as a sign who's who. You seem a fool." Quite reconciled now to his name, the young Brahmin came back to his master. "Well, what name have you chosen?" asked the Bodhisattva. "Master," said he, "I find that death comes to quick and dead alike, that rich and poor may be poor together, and that guide and misguide alike miss their way. I know now that a name serves only to tell who is who, and does not govern its owner's destiny. So I am satisfied with my own name, and do not want to change it for any other." Then the Bodhisattva uttered this stanza, combining what the young Brahmin had done with the sights he had seen. Seeing quick dead, guide lost, rich poor, Lo learned content nor travelled more. His story told, the master said, "So you see, brethren, that in former days as now this brother imagined there was a great deal in a name." And he identified the birth by saying, "This brother who is discontented with his name was the discontented young Brahmin of those days. The Buddha's disciples were the pupils. And I myself their master." Source: Adapted from archaic translation by Robert Chalmers. Jataka number 98. Kūṭavāṇija-Jātaka. Wise rightly, wisest wrongly. This story was told by the master while at Jetavana monastery, about a cheating merchant. There were two merchants in partnership at Sravasthi city, we are told, who traveled with their merchandise and came back with the proceeds. And the cheating merchant thought to himself, "My partner has been badly fed and badly lodged for so many days past that he will die of indigestion now he has got home again and can feast to his heart's content on choice foods many times. My plan is to divide what we have made into 3 portions, giving 1 to his orphans and keeping 2 for myself." And with this object he made some excuse day by day for putting off the division of the profits. Finding that it was in vain to press for a division, the honest partner went to the master at the monastery, made his salutation, and was received kindly. "It is a very long time," said the Buddha, "since you came last to see me." And on this the merchant told the master what had happened to him. "This is not the first time, lay follower," said the master, "that this man has been a cheating merchant. He was no less a cheat in times past. As he tries to defraud you now, so did he try to defraud the wise and good of other days." So saying, at the merchant's request, the master told the story of the past. Once upon a time when Brahmadatta was reigning in Benares, the Bodhisattva was born into a merchant's family and on name day was named Wise. When he grew up he entered into partnership with another merchant named Wisest, and traded with him. And these two took 500 wagons of merchandise from Benares to the country districts, where they disposed of their wares, returning afterwards with the proceeds to the city. When the time for dividing came, Wisest said, "I must have a double share." "Why so?" asked Wise. "Because while you are only wise, I am wisest. And wise should have only 1 share to wisest's 2. But we both had an equal interest in the stock in trade and in the oxen and wagons. Why should you have 2 shares? Because I am wisest." And so they talked away till they fell to quarreling. "Ah!" thought Wisest, "I have a plan." And he made his father hide in a hollow tree, enjoining the old man to say, when the 2 came, Wisest should have a double portion. This arranged, he went to the Bodhisattva and proposed to him to refer the claim for a double share to the competent decision of the tree fairy. Then he made his appeal in these words: "Lord Tree Fairy, decide our cause." On this the father, who was hidden in the tree, in a changed voice asked them to state the case. The cheat addressed the tree as follows: "Lord, here stands Wise, and here stand I Wisest. We have been partners in trade. Tell what share each should receive." "Wise should receive 1 share, and Wisest 2, was the response. Hearing this decision, the Bodhisattva resolved to find out whether it was indeed a tree fairy or not. So he filled the hollow trunk with straw and set it on fire. And Wisest's father was half roasted by the rising flames and clambered up by clutching hold of a bough. Falling to the ground, he uttered this stanza: "Wise rightly, wisest wrongly got his name. Through wisest, I'm near roasted in the flame." Then the 2 merchants made an equal division and each took half, and at their deaths passed away to fare according to their deeds. "Thus you see," said the master, "that your partner was as great a cheat in past times as now." Having ended his story, he identified the birth by saying, "The cheating merchant of today was the cheating merchant in the story, and I the honest merchant named Wise." Source: adapted from archaic translation by Robert Chalmers. Jataka number 99. Kūṭavāṇija-Jātaka. Far better than 1,000 fools. This story was told by the master when at Jetavana monastery, concerning the question of the unconverted. The incidents will be told in the Kūṭavāṇija-Jātaka. On a certain occasion the brethren met in the hall of truth and praised the wisdom of Sariputra, the captain of the faith, who had explained the meaning of the Buddha's pithy saying. Entering the hall, the master asked and was told what the brethren were talking about. "This is not the first time, brethren," said he, that the meaning of a pithy saying of mine has been brought out by Sariputra. He did the like in times gone by. So saying, he told this story of the past. Once upon a time when Brahmadatta was reigning in Benares, the Bodhisattva was born a northern Brahmin and perfected his education at Taxila, putting lusts from him and renouncing the world for the hermit's life. He won the 5 knowledges and the 8 attainments, and lived in the Himalayas, where 500 hermits gathered round him. One rainy season, his chief disciple went with half the hermits to the habitations of men to get salt and vinegar. And that was the time when the Bodhisattva should die. And his disciples, wishing to know his spiritual attainment, said to him, "What excellence have you won?" "Won?" said he. "I have won nothing." So saying, he died, but was reborn in the Brahma realm of archangels. For bodhisattvas, even though they may have attained to the highest state, are never reborn in the formless world, because they are incapable of passing beyond the realm of form. Mistaking his meaning, his disciples concluded that he had failed to win any spiritual attainment. So they did not pay the customary honors at cremation. On his return, the chief disciple learnt that the master was dead, and asked whether they had asked what he had won. He said he had won nothing, said they. So we did not pay him the usual honors at cremation. You understood not his meaning, said that chief disciple. Our master meant that he had attained to the insight called the insight into the nothingness of things. But though he explained this again and again to the disciples, they believed him not. Knowing their unbelief, the Bodhisattva cried, "Fools! They do not believe my chief disciple. I will make this thing plain unto them." And he came from the Brahma realm, and by virtue of his mighty powers rested in mid-air above the hermitage, and uttered this stanza in praise of the wisdom of the chief disciple. Far better than 1,000 fools, though they cry out 100 years unceasingly, is one who, hearing, straightway understands. Thus did the great being from mid-air proclaim the truth and rebuke the band of hermits. Then he passed back to the Brahma realm, and all those hermits too qualified themselves for rebirth in the same realm. His lesson ended, the master identified the birth by saying, Sariputra was the chief disciple of those days, and I Mahabrahma. Source: adapted from archaic translation by Robert Chalmers. Jataka number 100. Asātarūpa-Jātaka. In guise of joy. This story was told by the master while at Kūṭavāṇija near the city of Nikaya about Supavesa, a lay sister, who was daughter to King Kaliya. For at that time, she, who had carried a child 7 years in her womb, was in the 7th day of her agony, and her pains were grievous. In spite of all her agony, she thought as follows: all enlightened is the Lord Buddha, who preaches the truth to the end that such suffering may cease. Righteous are the elect of the Lord Buddha who so walk that such suffering may cease. Blessed is nirvana in which such suffering cloth cease. These 3 thoughts were her consolation in her pangs. And she sent her husband to the Buddha to tell her state and bear a greeting for her. Her message was given to the Lord Buddha, who said, "May Supavesa, daughter of the king of the Kaliyas, grow strong and well again, and bear a healthy child." And at the word of the Lord Buddha, Supavesa, daughter of the king of the Kaliyas, became well and strong, and had a healthy child. Finding on his return that his wife had been safely delivered, the husband marveled greatly at the exalted powers of the Buddha. Now that her child was born, Supavesa was eager to show generosity for 7 days to the brotherhood with the Buddha at its head, and sent her husband back to invite them. Now it was by chance that at that time the brotherhood with the Buddha at its head had received an invitation from the layman who supported the elder monk Moggallana the Great. But the master, wishing to gratify Supavasa's charitable desires, sent to the elder monk to explain the matter, and with the brotherhood accepted for 7 days the hospitality of Supavasa. On the 7th day she dressed up her little boy, whose name was Sivali, and made him bow before the Buddha and the brotherhood. And when he was brought in due course to Sariputra, the elder monk in all kindness greeted the infant, saying, "Well, Sivali, is all well with you?" "How could it be, sir?" said the infant. 7 long years have I had to roll in blood. Then in joy Supavesa exclaimed, my child, only 7 days old, is actually talking on Dhamma with the elder monk Sariputra, the captain of the faith? Would you like another such a child? Asked the master. Yes, sir, said Supavesa, 7 more, if I could have them like him. In an earnest manner the master gave thanks for Supavesa's hospitality and departed. At 7 years of age the child civilly gave his heart to the faith and gave up the world to join the brotherhood. At 20 he was admitted a full brother. Righteous was he and won the crown of righteousness which is arhatship, and the earth shouted aloud for joy. So one day the assembled brethren talked with one another in the hall of truth respecting the matter, saying, the elder monk civilly, who is now so shining a light, was the child of many prayers. 7 long years was he in the womb and 7 days in birth. How great must have been the pains of mother and child! Of what deeds were their pains the fruit? Entering the hall, the master asked the subject of their discourse. Brethren, said he, the righteous civilly was 7 years in the womb and 7 days in birth, all because of his own past deeds. And similarly Supavesa's 7 years pregnancy and 7 days travail resulted from her own past deeds. So saying, he told this story of the past. Once upon a time when Brahmadatta was reigning in Benares. The Bodhisattva was the child of the queen wife, and grew up and was educated at Taxila, and at his father's death became king and ruled righteously. Now in those days the king of Kosala came up with a great force against Benares and killed the king and took off his queen to be his own wife. When the king was killed, his son made his escape through the sewer. Afterwards he collected a mighty force and came to Benares. Encamping hard by, he sent a message to the king to either surrender the kingdom or give battle. And the king sent back the answer that he would give battle. But the mother of the young prince, hearing of this, sent a message to her son, saying, there is no need to do battle. Let every approach to the city on every side be armed and barred, till lack of firewood and water and food wears out the people. Then the city will fall into your hands without any fighting. Following his mother's advice, the prince for 7 days equipped the city with so close a blockade that the citizens on the 7th day cut off their king's head and brought it to the prince. Then he entered the city and made himself king, and when his life ended he passed away to fare according to his deeds. The result and consequence of his acts in blockading the city for those 7 days was that for 7 years he dwelling in the womb and was 7 days in birth. But, so far as he had fallen at the feet of the Buddha Padumatara and had prayed with many gifts that the crown of arhatship might be his. And, so far as, in the days of the Buddha Vipassi, he had offered up the same prayer, he and his townsfolk, with gifts of great price. Therefore, by his merit, he won the crown of arhatship. And because Supavesa sent the message asking her son take the city by blockade, she was doomed to a 7 years pregnancy and to a 7 days travail. His story ended, the master, as Buddha, repeated these verses. In guise of joy and blessings, sorrow comes and trouble, sluggards' hearts to overwhelm. And when he had taught this lesson, the master identified the birth by saying, civilly was the prince who in those days blockaded the city, and became king. Supavesa was his mother, and I his father, the king of Benares.